You're watching Soulful Discussions. Ciao.
All right, so hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing.
All right. How did you and I run into each other today? How did we cross paths?
I was going on a walk.
Absolutely. And so I was actually walking in the opposite direction. I stopped you. What did I stop you about? What are we doing today?
We're talking about soulful discussions regarding our feet and how it's grounded in us.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. What are some thoughts that you have personally about your feet? Like, what do you think when you think about your own feet?
Today, actually, right before you stop me, I think that's the best question. My feet, I just learned to have an arch.
Okay.
So with certain shoes, like my rainbows, for instance, it hurts me here. Like I'm already getting a blister because of like where my feet are, essentially. That's why I took them off and was just like walking on the grass because it feels better to do that.
Yeah.
Today I am more on a one, I don't know, like one with self. So that's why I also wanted to be with
earthing and grounding.
Yes,
Lovely.
exactly.
I ran into the perfect today.
That's why as soon as you told me what you wanted to talk about, I was like, I'm down.
And it's interesting. So, like, here's the one thing I always tell people about my interviews. Like, I'll ask people, and a lot of times I'll get no's.
Yes.
But I always run into the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
And, like, if somebody else might have said yes, I probably didn't run into it. So, like, I always feel like it's, like, divine timing and things like that.
100%. I feel like the last 2 days, that's what I've been dealing with. Don't get me wrong, I'm Christian, but I do dabble in some things. Yeah. I did shrooms yesterday, and I did shrooms this morning.
That's lovely.
But when doing shrooms, I do it more recreational. I don't do it just to have a trip.
Yeah, just to be doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I will admit, it opens up a third eye, and it makes me stop thinking to where people are very much, like, in themselves, you know, to where it's like walking. I've only walked about 1.5 miles, and the amount of people I've seen looking at their phones is insane.
Wow. You know what's funny to me? So when I go in malls now, right? I remember there was a time you go in malls and people were just focused on shopping.
Yes.
And, you know, kind of move. Maybe you stop at the, concession stands or whatever. Now it's kind of like, yeah, you go into the mall, people will just literally go to the mall just to get the AC and just be on their phones.
Or now people are going to the mall because there's YouTubers or there's people who are like, oh, I'll buy you anything you want if you follow me. So people just want to run into them now too. That's also what's I've noticed when it comes to people just being out. They kind of look for people of yourself to be like, hey, let's have, because it's like we're in 2023.
Yeah.
That's
I dabble in a little bit like that. Mine's a little bit different in terms of what I do, but
but it's like you said, all you did was just ask me, like, hey, could we talk? And it's a conversation. It's not necessarily like, I don't know. I see this more as just vibing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So let me ask you this. In terms of, before you ran into me today, have you ever had discussions with people in regards to, like, your feet, foot health? Like,
yes.
Talking about those
so I work at a sports chiropractor and medicine to where it's like, whenever I work out, my knees go inward. So recently I've been more of like, of how my foot is planted, because in just normalness, your feet is withstanding everything else. If your hips hurt, if your knees hurt, all that, it all goes to a particular, exactly. Yeah. And that's not what a lot of people realize, is like the shoes that you wear, the comfortability. As we get older, it's more of like, okay, I want a comfortable shoe because of that. Yeah.
And so I try to go out and give that information. A lot of people don't know. I think a lot of people choose shoes based on style and
exactly.
Like how it looks good, and it's like a lot of times you're hurting the whole time while you're wearing those shoes. A lot of times people don't know that, like, there's people you can go see, like some people have like pronounced starches, some people are really flat-footed. You can go see a podiatrist who can like make you specialized orthotics for your feet that fit just your feet. That's like, it's like we spend money on things anyways. Like even today, like I went to an antique store in the morning. I spent $70. Last night I went out and spent $70 on drinks, so it's like, you can go do that. Like, we talk about being adults, but now that it's like we're adulting, it's like, okay, what are you doing? You're not with your mom and dad. What are you doing? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: when you think about, when you hear active, like being mindful and being actively mindful, what do you think about immediately with that?
Being actively mindful, just learning to be by yourself. Don't get me wrong, I know we all joke about, I have also a background in psychology. I went to school for that. Didn't finish, but I mean, I still know a few things to where we're very big on, as a society, of like making fun of our mental health. Like, oh, I was depressed, or I was this. But actually, once you're happy, then what? That's the biggest thing. And I think, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Actively mindful.
Yes, to where it's like, today, for instance, even though I've I've dealt with my depression.
Yeah.
Today was my actively mindfulness, to where I was like, okay, I need to go outside. I moved to Long Beach about a month ago. I'm originally from Whittier and moved to Santa Ana, and I've been like, going through life to where now that I've built this life, it's like, I need to enjoy it. You know what I mean?
That's dope, man.
Yeah.
That's really dope. Like, to be near the beach, like, you got so many different things near you.
I still work where I grew up, but just my brother moved to New York. My brother moved to Oakland, the same one.
Yeah.
He always got out of where we lived, and he was the biggest person to tell me, like, you need to move out of where you come from to enjoy life.
And actually, like, to experience, like, some differences in the world, because a lot of times we go based on, like, exactly where we grew up and, like, this is how things are.
Yeah.
Like, for me, for a long time growing up, like, I grew up in South Central, and so, like, for me, I didn't even think about anything outside of that. Like, to think about, like, other countries.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it was, like, that was the world right there. So, like, my first time getting out of the country was, like, eye-opening, and it was almost like a culture shock for me, because it was like, wow, like, there's people who live differently than how I live, like, and it's just, it's amazing.
Like, even for myself, like, every time I'd come to Long Beach before, I was always in Long Beach before I moved here.
Yeah.
And people ask me, like, why did you move here? And it's like, because this is where I would come in my darkest places. Now that I'm no longer, I have my days, but I've learned to understand, like, it's not every day is going to be bad.
Nice.
Because I've seen the darkest days where I didn't think, am I going to be here? Last year I was at a day trip, and it's going on this weekend. When I was there last year, it was to just have one day of happiness, because I was going through so much.
Yeah.
To where I zoomed out, and I'm like, a year later, I'm a year older, and I'm like, I'm now living where I was when I was sad. You know what I mean?
It's like, it's like almost like you hit a 180 right there.
Yes.
Real quick. Turned it around real quick.
That's why I've learned the joy, I guess to say, of microdosing, because people do these types of drugs and they have such a stereotype to where it's like, no, if you really do it and you embrace it, it's like, whoa, it's a whole different experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So for the next portion, I want to get into, so if you were kind of looking through the thing, we were talking about those things. So the first page, basically, what is your toe alignment? So if you don't mind, can we take a look at your feet? Just because
I just took off my nail polish, but whatever.
We're not here to judge.
No, yes.
So in terms of your foot, what would you say your toe alignment is based on what you see there?
I'm either Greek or Celtic, or no, I would say Greek, and that's because of this toe.
I think that's the Greek toe alignment.
Yeah.
And so what they find too, because I don't know, have you ever been to Greece?
No, I have not.
Okay, so in Greece, like, they have a lot of statues and stuff. That second toe is the toe that's sticking out, because it's almost supposed to be like a Greek heritage that the white people have.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you might have somebody in there in your family, maybe way down.
My siblings did 23andMe, and we're Spaniard and Portuguese. So I found out more instead of just being told I'm Mexican.
Absolutely.
It's like there's more to it.
That's dope. All right, so let me get you put both feet out, like right here, side by side.
Okay.
And sometimes, I don't even know if you notice, sometimes people have one foot that's like a little bit longer than the other one, right? You probably don't deal with anything like that. No. Okay, good. Cool. If I can, let me have you put your feet out straight like this. Okay, up. Like this, and then straight up, toes up. And then if I could, I would imagine that your feet are more slender, like more like narrow.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to find shoes sometimes.
I've found my first shoe. It's a Converse Chuck 70. It's when Nike took over. So Chucks alone are very flat-footed, and I am not. So Chuck 70s are what, they have a better sole in them. To where when your foot's in it, it molds to your foot.
Absolutely.
So that's like the shoe I wear every day.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
That or Hoka's. I fuck with Hoka's a lot.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Nice. So let me tell you a couple things about, like, I don't know if you've heard reflexology or anything, but like, if you have let's turn to the next couple pages. Earth and ground, you just got through doing that, so we can kind of get past that. And then if you go one more page over.
Okay.
So yeah, that's when we get to the foot reflexology part, where it talks about the different areas that, like, we can target, like, if we're having trouble. So, like, for example, a lot of people have trouble with migraines, right? So you put your feet back out side by side. So the area, like, if you want to massage that area, if you know anybody who deals with that, right? So what you can do is right here at the base of the big toe, you apply pressure there, massage in a circular motion. Basically, that tension starts to go down.
Do you go clockwise or counterclockwise?
Yeah, so you go clockwise.
I got it.
Absolutely. And so if you're on your hands, you put your hands out. Same thing. So right here, in this area, same thing. Applying that pressure, circular motion.
Okay.
After a while, you start to see that, like, really have an impact
Yeah.
on that tension that you're feeling.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of that before?
Kind of, because of my job, I
Yeah.
get a massage once a month.
Okay.
And we deal with, for me, because I'm typing, and this
Oh, yeah.
area is very big
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
like just your fingers in general.
Because what we don't realize too is like a lot of times when we type,
Mhm.
most people have a tendency to do this,
Yes.
right? And your wrist doesn't naturally go in that motion.
And you're
right?
flexing that whole time while doing
so
that.
you're kind of like keeping
Mhm.
it this way, and so it's like almost stiffening up.
Yes,
in a way.
that's why
Absolutely.
even though I work behind a desk, I don't try to make that like my thing. Like,
You
I
gotta
just
get
work
up,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I even joke at work. I'm like, how are you guys not wanting to get up and move
Yeah.
around? I watch every hour. I'm at least getting up, going outside,
Yeah.
or at least standing.
I love that some people places have those tables now where you can kind of like put
Yeah.
it up to a standing set and then just like stand up.
On my own personal desk at work, I'm trying to get my boss to do that,
Oh, yeah.
but
What you do, here's the trick to that. Go to your doctor. Tell your doctor, like, hey, I need a note for basically that, and your boss will have to get
my
that
boss
for you.
is a doctor, so it's very hard. It's very hard to say those
Oh.
certain things to
You
him.
can't finesse him. He's
Yeah,
like,
if I wanted a doctor's note, I could just get one from work.
there it is. He's like, why didn't you come to me? I know you're lying.
Exactly.
So, in terms of this next portion, when we talk about reflexology, we're going to talk about sensitivity.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. You've gone and gotten pedicures. Are you very sensitive?
Yes, but more of tickle,
Okay.
not
When they
necessarily.
do the pumice stone, you're not, like, sensitive for
I do that to myself.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Is it sensitive for you when you do that?
Yes and no. My feet are very soft, and that's why, like with the blisters,
Okay.
I've always, I don't know, my mom has always taught me good hygiene. So that's why with my feet always being soft, that's why when I wear the sandals, how the
that's
blisters.
why it impacts you so much.
Because I'm very.
Because you like take care of it.
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you this: would you mind if we tested it out to see like what the sensitivity is? I have a tool to use.
Yeah.
Just want to see what it is.
Is it a
Okay.
scraping?
Huh?
Scraping?
No, it's actually so we're using a brush.
Okay.
It's like almost like a pumice stone.
Got it.
Yeah. So we want to see what that sensitivity is, and then I'm gonna show you a trick. If it is sensitive for you, like what you could do to be less sensitive. And I actually
Okay.
have a couple tricks here.
It's so crazy that I bumped a knee just because I literally was just thinking and talking to myself about my feet, essentially. Yeah.
There it is. All right, so toes up. What we're
Okay.
gonna do is we're gonna start with the right side first.
Okay.
We're gonna work to the left, and then I'm gonna show you what the trick is. I want you to try that, and then we'll see how it is.
Got it.
Cool. Let's start right. 1, 2, 3, and what are we feeling here? How sensitive?
Tickles.
How
It's
sensitive? Like on a scale of 1 to 10.
Sensitivity, I would say would be like an 8.
Like an 8?
Yes, because I could deal with it, but
Yeah,
I'm not
but
gonna
after
keep.
a while, it probably gets a little bit like,
Yeah.
okay. Let's try your left. Tell me
Okay.
if this one is worse. 1,
Okay.
2, 3, and...
Okay,
What
yeah,
about
that's
that?
worse. That's worse.
That one's worse.
Yeah.
Are you left-handed or right-handed?
Right.
Okay. You probably plant a lot with your left.
Yes.
Okay.
I hurt my hips when I was 15, so I have a thing called hip dysplasia. So because of that, I put a lot of my stuff on my left.
So
Yes.
we're getting all types of information today. I'm loving it. You know, my girlfriend, she had a car accident and it impacts her right side, so she puts
Okay.
a lot of that pressure on the left side to like try to like make up for that.
Oh, okay.
And so now she experiences a lot of neck pain on the left side.
Got
because of
it.
that. So that's usually what we do. We try to compensate for like, I'm feeling uncomfortable, let me go to this side.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I want you to do. I want you to wiggle your toes while I'm doing it. I want you to tell me if you feel it more or less. Put your feet up more like this and then just wiggle your toes.
Okay.
And do you feel it more or less?
I feel it less.
Do you know why?
Interesting. That's fucking cool.
There it is. So what do you think it is if you were like putting 2 and 2 together?
The mobility, I guess, because like they say, if you're hurt, like doctors will tell you to look the other way when they're like hitting your knee, so you
Yep.
have that reflex.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
here's what it is. Our minds, right?
Yes.
Every part of our body. You telling your mind to do something is almost like a distraction. It's
Exactly.
Like you're not so focused.
Yes.
Number 2, when you move, right? That energy gets dispersed into like multiple areas. So now that energy is not in one area. Whereas
Yeah.
before your foot was still, we're doing it, now you're feeling it all over. But when you're doing
Interesting.
this, that energy is just moving
Yeah.
everywhere. Absolutely. Let's try the
Okay.
left. You said your left
Okay.
was more sensitive.
Yeah.
Wiggle. And less?
A little bit,
Okay.
but yes.
So what was it at originally? this
Originally it was at 8. Now I would say it's like at 4.
So that's more manageable.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the trick I always tell women when they go get pedicures. If
Ah.
you're very sensitive, because a lot of women
Just
say, I won't
wiggle
get the
your-
pumice stone
yeah.
because of that. I'm like, no, just go ahead and get it, but just wiggle your toes a little bit so it helps out.
Oh,
Absolutely. So now I
okay.
have a couple things I want you to do. We're gonna test some stretching, different things like that to see
Okay.
if you have good dexterity, flexibility.
Okay.
And then I have 2 things I'm gonna have you use that maybe you've never thought of using before. You probably have.
Maybe.
Actually, you're in
Maybe.
sports medicine,
Yeah.
So there it is. All right. So here's what I'm gonna do. Feet up straight.
Okay.
All right, and then what I want you to do first, bend your toes, make a fist. Tell me if you feel pain or discomfort. Is that easy to do or hard to do?
Easy.
Easy. Relax. Next, let me have you spread your toes. Tell me if you feel pain or discomfort.
I'm fine.
Easy. Okay. Last one. Wiggle your toes about 10 seconds. Tell me if you feel pain, discomfort, any cramping happening after a while.
I know I've been getting more cramping because I haven't been stretching as much. Yes.
Okay. So here's something I want you to try. Maybe you've heard of this before, maybe you haven't. I do know when people have plantar fasciitis, they do like describe this for people. So
Okay.
tennis ball. So let me get you to try a little bit of that, just kind of rolling your foot back and forth across that. Tell me what the feeling is that you're feeling while you're doing that.
Pressure points are, for me, I would say it would be here and here.
Ball of your foot.
Yeah.
Your foot. Okay. Let's try your left, and then I'm going to have you try one more, and I want you to tell me what the difference is that you're feeling now. But this is something you can do in mornings. Like if you don't have time to stretch, you do this, and like it basically stretches those muscles, those tendons you don't normally use.
Yeah, because I'm sitting all day, I think I'm very big on like trying to do this because I'm not moving.
You can even do it at your desk. You take this with you.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So here we go. Golf ball.
Oh.
So try that one out. Now tell me what the difference is you feel. What's the difference?
It's more of like the hardness of it, because that's like a soft.
Yeah.
So this is like getting what's hurting more.
More into those areas, right? So I always tell people, like, if you really want to try to get in there, go right into this one. This one definitely helps out a lot. Absolutely. All right, so let's wrap up the interview. In terms of my approach, I came up to you, I asked you to do this interview. What did you feel my approach was like? Was it good? Was it bad? How'd you feel about it?
Good. I think it's good. Like how do I say this? I'm very big. I network a lot.
Okay.
So to give you, how do I say this before I say it? Do you want an opinion? Do you want advice? Or what do you want?
Whatever. You can give me all of that.
Okay. Presentance.
Okay.
I would say maybe having on more of like a clean look.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Got it.
Because you're doing more of interviews, you want to have that sit with you.
Okay.
Because of what you're doing, I would say because you're working in kinesiology and you're getting towards something, have a business card, have a QR code, something for someone to scan that'll make it very easy for them to access you. Because after this interview, I'm going to ask, okay, what's your YouTube channel? Let me see something. There's a man recently that I met. It was great. I asked him if he was married because the ring was here. He was like, oh no. And he touched my phone and it automatically had a link. I've never seen a ring that's like that. He held it to my camera and I had all his information. And it was all business information. You know what I mean? It wasn't exactly. So it's like maybe finding something different to where it's like, yes, the approach is here, but at the same time to be more of like, you're selling yourself. You're a business. So it's like you want to have that more behind you as well. Yeah.
Okay. Love that. In terms of the interview, right, start to finish, what were your thoughts about like how everything was going on in the line? Very clean.
You know, this is a conversation and you kept to it. Not gonna lie, it's 4:30 now and I have stuff to do to where it's very good to where from start to finish you hit all the points that you had to do. It wasn't just a elevator small talk. You had a presentation and you did it.
Appreciate it.
So yes, I will tell you that.
The last thing I always ask on my channel, is there anything that you can say to my channel that can be like helpful to them, like if they're dealing with something difficult, something that maybe somebody said to you, maybe it's a life lesson that you learned yourself, just anything that you can share with us that would help.
I'm a PK kid. Okay, my parents are ministers. I grew up in a household, Christian, grew up in that was my culture, Christianity. To whereas being an adult and trying to find myself while also living with my parents, the mental health of that, you know what I'm going with that? I'm the youngest of 4 and I am the one that lived at home the longest. I got kicked out when I was 26 and it was just because of a disagreement that me and my parents had. As much as that was the one thing that I thought broke me, that was what I needed to get where I'm at. Yeah. Because I fell in love with Sex and the City recently, in love. And I make a joke of like Sex and the City Long Beach edition for me. Yes, to where, you know, like you said before, it's all in our mind. We have to make us think of something new to where I do think like, okay, this is a new chapter, these are new characters. Like I said, microdosing with shrooms. I haven't spoken to my mom in about 1.5 years. This past weekend was more clarity for me to be like, now that I'm no longer in fight or flight,
Yeah.
my mind doesn't know how to relax. To where that's everyone's always hustling. To where it's like, can't we just have a moment?
So fast.
Exactly.
Like, you gotta go,
It's like, can't we just have a moment to where we're enjoying what we hustle for? You know, because it's like I've been hustling for, and I look at life as seasons.
Yeah.
And my friend who's going through a breakup, it was my first time realizing all my life patterns have been 6 months.
Wow.
So it's like I went through depression for 6 months. And then after that, I met my new current group of friends who I reconnected with. Because, you know, being in a relationship, you lose yourself.
Yep.
Because you're like, okay, thinking of that person. So when you're single, you have to think, you know, of like, okay, what do I have to do to make me happy? Instead of relying on someone.
Everybody else,
Exactly. To where a year ago I was single, now I'm with my current boyfriend, and it's to the point where I'm like, I'm not going to lose myself this time. Like, I've learned from my mistakes, so that's why today he's at work. I don't give a fuck, I'm not going to stay home. Like, he was like, what are you doing today? I was like, I don't know. Like,
I'll do my own thing.
Yeah, it's like I'm no longer in this mindset of like, I'm with my parents, I'm with this. I live a mile and a half down. I went to an antique store, I went to the museum, I've been seeing. I got a library card yesterday at my local library. It's like doing the things that instead of just like seeing it and wanting to do it with someone, it's like I could do it by myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's so dope.
And not a lot of women do that.
Very much so. It's like, you know what, when I first met my girlfriend, that was one of the things she said to me. She said she was going on a date by herself. Yeah. And I was just like, huh? How you do that? She's like, well, I'm going to go see a movie, I'm going to have dinner, I'm going to do all that stuff by myself and just have me time.
You're with a beautiful woman.
And I was like, that's wonderful. Absolutely.
Because, and see, my friend recently, a guy, was like, I've known him for the last 20 years. Yeah. So he was like, what is your boyfriend going to say if you're with me? I'm like, yeah, we fucking grown. I'm not in high school to where I'm like, have to ask him. Like, he is more than welcome to come. Because it was a group of us that were out. I was like, he's just at work. Like, I'm not cheating on him. I know my character, you know, to where if you're second guessing me hanging out with someone, that's a you problem. Because I know I'm going to be good. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's really dope, man. Well, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate stopping
and
having this discussion with us.
Thank you. I appreciate
and we hope
that.
you have a great one, okay?
Yes.
All right.